welcome to another edition of the LTC EdTech webinar series. My name is Brian Bates. I'm the Digital Learning Coordinator with the LTC. I'm glad you guys are joining us again. We took last week off and most of our staff was at IdeaCon, so hopefully a lot of you were able to be there as well. But we're going to get started again with another round of webinars starting today. And just before we get started, a few things to remember. This webinar is being recorded and you will receive a link to the recording in your email tomorrow. You can also, if you can't wait that long, you can join and check out the ltcillinois.org/webinars website and go into the on-demand tab, and it'll be posted on there later on this evening. Right now, you are muted, so feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation using either the Q&A box or the chat feature. I know there have been some introductions put in the chat, so please make sure that you follow along and you add your name and where you're from and what your role is into that chat, so we can all figure out who's who and learn from each other. And at the end of the session, you'll have the opportunity to unmute yourself then and ask questions, or if you choose to just type your questions, you can do so as well. I won't waste any more time. I want to turn it over to today's. Today, we're joined by Eric Santos and Dana Weber, and they are technology learning coaches from the Manheim District. And so, Eric and Dana, whenever you guys are ready, feel free to take over, and it's yours.
All right, thank you, Brian, and hello, everybody. My name is Eric Santos.
I'm Dana Weber.
And as Brian mentioned, we're tech coaches at District 83, and we're here to talk about BadgeIT, our micro-credentialing program or badging program, and how we made it easy to run with G Suite apps. So I see some people posting in the chat. If you haven't already, just let us know where you're located and what you hope to learn today. I see so far a lot of mentions of teachers taking control of their own learning and having an efficient, easy way to manage it all. And I think that's those are a couple of topics that we'll touch on during this time. So just a little background on us. I am in my 14th year in education. I was a science and STEM teacher for 11 years at the middle school level, and I've been at Manheim as a tech coach for the past 3 years.
And I am in my 10th year in education. I'm a formal special ed teacher. I did some self-contained and some co-teaching, and I'm in my 5th year as a technology learning coach here at Manheim District 83, and I am at Roy Elementary School.
All right, and I know that we've got people kind of from all over the state, but we are just northwest of Chicago we cover Franklin Park, Melrose Park, North Lake. So if you're familiar with where O'Hare International Airport is, we are literally just down the street.
All right, so as instructional coaches that happen to use technology, we like to use the golden circle. It's a way for us to always focus on the why first. So in our presentation today, we are going to start with the why we created BadgeIT, how teachers earn badges. We have an easy, streamless way for them to earn their badges, and what we do behind the scenes to make all that magic happen. And then we're going to end with a little bit of celebrating success and how we have made it successful here at District 83.
And you'll see on several of our slides this graphic called the golden circle, and that's pretty popular in education these days, and it's something that we use to center everything that we do, always remembering to start with the why and keeping the why of any initiative we have at the forefront, and that drives everything else that we do, the how and the what after it. So we'll kind of point that out when you see that on the screen.
So BadgeIT, or Badge Instructional Technology, is what we call our badging program. We started this conversation of badging a couple years ago, and it was on one of those lists, maybe we'll get to it, and we got to it. And this is our first year of implementation, and it has taken off. We really didn't know where it was going to go, and we've seen a lot of success with it this year.
Yeah, our biggest fear was we would throw a party and no one would come, but as you're going to see in a minute, they showed up.
So our why. So why badging? So we really wanted, so here at District 83, our instructional coaches use Diane Sweeney's work, student-centered coaching. And being on the tech side of it, it's really hard to drum up what's the word I'm looking for? Business for coaching cycles. So we wanted a way to get our foot in the door with more staff members. We also wanted them to have the why. Why do they want to take learning into their own hands? So we use, so we're using the Danielson model for evaluation. So we wanted to make sure that we were putting the why in for every badge on why they would want to earn a badge. We also wanted to add to their toolbox. So some of our badges are tool-based, some are skill-based, and we really wanted them to take learning into their own hands and really keep adding to that toolbox. We also noticed that there were a lot of teachers already using technology in our district, but we didn't have a way of recognizing them for that. So we wanted to allow teachers to be recognized for things that they're already doing, but also to have almost like a menu to what they can choose from, because teachers don't know what they don't know. So we wanted to have some sort of visual menu that they can choose from, and then a way for them to share their accomplishments with everybody else. So we'll go into a little further on how we make all of this happen. So how do teachers actually get a badge? So I'm going to take you through our seamless way, and it's a couple of steps that they do. We wanted to make sure that it was easy for them. So Eric just put our bit.ly to our badging site in the chat. If you want to go ahead and click on that, you can click around our site, but I'm going to take you through it right now. So when you get to our BadgeIT site on the home page, we have all of our badges. Now we started with, I think, 6 badges, and we have about 28 badges live right now. And what teachers can do is they can come to our first page and they can pick a badge that they're interested in getting. Once they click on the badge, it'll take them to that badge's page. And so we'll have our fun name for the badge. So this is our awesome author badge. And then the name of the tool or skill is underneath. And then each badge page is broken into 3 sections: a why, a learn, and a do. And that's the same for all of them. And we start with the why, and that's where we identify which domains of our Danielson that we're hitting. Now, we are not evaluators. We don't claim to be. The teachers know we are not evaluating them. This is for them to be able to target specific skills that they want to for their own professional learning. So we identify those, and then we also identify other reasons why they would want to learn about this specific tool or skill. And then in the next section is the learn. Now the learn section, we put lots of things in. We create videos on how to sign into an app and use an app. We put resources in that have student examples. We might make videos, links to other resources or other websites. So teachers can go to this place and really take learning into their own hands. And then the last part is the do. And this is pretty streamless this is pretty much the same for all of our badges. We have a few components. So we want them to plan with us, we want them to teach something, and then we want them to reflect. So the first part is how we get our foot in the door for those coaching cycles. We want them to plan with their TLC, their technology learning coaches. So we'll sit down, we'll plan with them, we'll test things, we'll set things up with them. And then the next part is teach. Now they have an option. They can lead and we can be there to support, or we can co-teach together, but they have to do one of those 2 things. And then after that, we ask them to reflect, and then they'll use that reflection and submit a badge. So I'm going to actually take you through what it would look like for a teacher to do that.
Can I jump in real quick
Yeah,
before
go
you
ahead.
do? So one thing you may notice if you go back and click on different badges is that some of the requirements are a little different. There are some where we are definitely encouraging them to work with us first. For example, if they're leading a virtual tour, they do have to work with us first to learn how to use the VR equipment. But there are others where, you know, our thing is as long as it's added to their tool belt, we're good with them doing this on their own. We just have a certain set of criteria of what they have to accomplish in order to earn that badge. I'm also going to jump in and say Amber posed a great question in the chat of which 6 badges do we start with. I don't remember the exact 6, but I can tell you the reasoning behind the 6 we picked was that we wanted to seed the system a little bit by picking 6 that we knew some people already kind of qualified for, and that were, I don't want to say easier, but they were most attainable for teachers already. That way we can get people on board, maybe hand out a few to teachers who had already hit the requirements a couple months earlier, and then now we've already got a system that's running and people are on board, and it's easier. It's always easier to get things going when there's already a couple people on board.
We did what we call a soft rollout, where we targeted those teachers we've already been with, gave them badges, and then showed the staff, hey, we have this badging system. Look, you already have other colleagues that have gotten badges already. How cool is that? So we kind of seeded the system with things that we knew that they can attain right away. All right, so we're gonna go into the badge reflection. So let's say I did number 1 and number 2. It's time for me to reflect on how it's transformed my teaching. I click on the link. It's gonna have me make a copy. So that was important. We wanted it to automatically make them a copy. We'll give it a second. And then the teachers would fill this out. They do not have to do the reflection with us. They do this on their own. So they would put in the name of their tool. Sorry, I got a lag going here. And they would fill this out. And then at the bottom, we always put in directions so they can do this all on their own. When they're done, we want them to rename their badge, get a shareable link, because they're going to use that link in when they go to submit their badge. So I'm going to do exactly what it says. All right, then I'm going to go to my share, get my shareable link.
And they can either share it, so everyone in the organization can see it and just link it to us, or if they want to just share it directly to us to make sure no one else sees it, that's totally fine. It's their choice.
So the teachers have filled out their reflection, and then they have to submit the evidence. So we created this in Google Forms. So they first by choosing their teacher. Eric will show you a little bit later why we have teacher or TLC, which is the tech coach. But they'll choose the teacher. They'll put in their name. I'll fill it out. So right now we have, they're gonna pick their school. We all get the emails, all of our tech coaches get the emails so we can all kind of see how our buildings are doing. I select which badge I want. And here is where I put in that link. And then I can add a little note. It also has down here evidence. So let me go back to that reflection form really quick. So in the reflection form, we also ask them a couple questions to reflect, and then we ask them to provide artifacts, anything that's going to support the reflection. It might be their lesson plan or an example of student work, but they can add that all in there. And then I will submit it. And now Eric as the, did I choose Roy?
I think so.
Oh no.
That's okay, I'll approve you. It's all good.
It's still gonna go to Eric. Like I said, we all see them. So Eric is gonna, so that's how easy it is for a teacher to go through the process of getting a badge. Now on our side of it.
So then I'll, as the coach, now I get the email. So I'll live dangerously and go into my email live here. Okay, it didn't show up. Well, we'll demonstrate for you what should have happened. Of course, everything's great until you go to show somebody. But she should be getting an email sent my way, and this is what ends up happening. Let's see if we can go refresh one more time. There we go. Okay. So I've got a badge request. Now, if this was my school, I would see that in the subject line and say, oh, okay, then I need to go approve this one. I get this email and it's got this nice formatting going on, and I'm going to make it a little bigger just to make sure everyone can see. It says the teacher requested this badge. It tells me what badge. If she had written a message, it would have shown up right there. And then we've got evidence. That's a link to the reflection that she submitted. Okay. And then I've got a link here for the badge requirements. That's just going to take me directly to the site. So now I can go and quickly click. Again, my goal here was automating everything as much as possible to make it really easy to manage. So as a coach, I can just click in and I can go down and be like, let me make sure that she did fulfill those requirements, because sometimes they differ for each badge and we might forget what the exact requirements were. And then if everything was good to go, I click on the request form. And this is where it gets fun. I actually have the edit link. You'll see down here it says that I'm editing my response. actually got the edit link to the form submission that she filled out. And so now I'm going to go in as a TLC. So I'm just going to change this. If I go in as teacher, I'll still see her submission is there, but that's not the side I want to go in on. Okay. I'm going to go in as a TLC. And I've put this is not the highest security in the world, but I did put in here a little warning just in case a teacher accidentally finds their way there. Hey, this is the TLC section. Go ahead and back out of here. But I'm the TLC, so I'll go in. I will choose me. That's my email. That ensures that I get the follow-up email. I will approve. We don't usually hit no. We started out setting up a system where what happens if we say no. Turns out we want to maintain personal connections, so it's easier for us to just not click anything and not fill this out and just go have a conversation with the teacher if we feel like anything needs to be discussed before approving. I can write them a message. Great working with you. Usually I write something a little more meaningful. And then I put in the password, which I won't demonstrate live. You thought I was going to show you, but no. So we do have a password. So this uses a little bit of data validation within the Google form. It's not, again, the highest of security, but it's enough to keep somebody from casually going in and approving any of the requests without our permission. So I will submit that in just a little bit, but that's an overview of how everything works. Okay.
So that's how we made it really easy for teachers. When we were talking about developing this system, we wanted to make sure that it was really easy for teachers. So each badge is basically those 3 things that they have to go through. Another thing is we didn't have a budget for this, so we had to make sure it was free. We're a Google Apps school, so we use all Google products. So everything we're going to demonstrate today is going to be using Sites, Draw, Forms, Sheets, everything, Google. We also wanted to make sure that we were going to have this as a second job, just maintaining it. So there's a lot of work we did on the back end in order for it to be automated. So right now we manage it with just a couple clicks. We get some emails and it kind of just runs itself. We wanted to make sure that we can share our results. The teachers can see how the building was doing, how they were doing. We wanted to make sure that we can grow it. Like we said, we started with 6 badges. We're at 28 and we put out more every month. We also wanted to make sure that we were utilizing all of the resources that we already have in the district.
I'm going to stop share and actually submit that for a second. How about that?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing for just a second so that I can go in and I can actually submit that request. Dana, you make sure our super high-tech password does not show up on the screen.
We wanted just to go through and show you how it works. Just how after we automated everything, how the whole thing works. We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty and how we made it work next. But we did just wanted to make sure that you guys kind of saw the system and what it looks like, so you had some points of reference when we're talking about it.
All right, so we're back sharing our screen. Now that I've submitted that request and approved that request, this is the email that comes through. And obviously this goes to both myself as the coach as well as the teacher. I don't know.
No, that's not
it doesn't
sure.
pop up. Okay. So you can see there's some automated stuff going on. Congratulations to Dana. Lets her know that she's now on the leaderboard. She's got the badge. So this is actually a link to the PNG file, the picture file, because it's a link within Google Drive. It pops up right here, which is really awesome. And so they can easily download that digital badge. And then we even give them a link to a Google drawing we created with instructions on how to add that badge to their Gmail signature, which teachers have gotten very happy about being able to show off their badges digitally. So that's kind of how the automated system works on the surface. So now a little bit of behind the scenes of how does it all work. And you're welcome to, of course, click around on the Google Sites while you do that, while we discuss this. But this is our Google site that we use to host everything. What we wanted to do was we wanted, first of all, to be able to work on pages as we went along and not have to worry about anything going live early when we weren't quite done with that page. We also didn't want to clutter up our menu with a lot of drop-down menu items. And so we don't actually have any of the pages in the menu. So within Google Sites, you can click on Hide from Navigation so that none of these links to any of these pages actually shows up in the built-in menu. Instead, we just put a picture of the badge and then manually link to each of these pages from here. And that's kind of useful because then when we're working on a new badge, but we're not quite done, it doesn't show up on the page anywhere or in the menu until we actually put an item in there and link it directly. So that's one kind of behind the scenes trick on the Google site. That's our what? Nice. Love the animation. Oh, you've seen our reflection doc, obviously, but we just want to point out that we do put it in 2 locations. We usually put it at the bottom of each badge page so that they have a quick link to it. And then we also put it within the form that they fill out themselves. We put a link just in case they forgot or didn't know that that was part of the deal. It's right there. We want to automate everything. The idea here was take all the hurdles and all the difficulty in, in the system out of the way and just let the teachers focus on what they did and what they got out of it and what their students will get out of it, so that it wasn't a complicated system to use. This is our leaderboard. So this is actually updated as of today. Dana made sure to show that her school is winning in number of badges, whereas my school is winning in number of staff with the badge.
We have more staff members.
You didn't have to mention that, but it's true. It's true. So we're a little competitive here, but this all shows up live on our Google site. So if you go to leaderboard at the top, it will show you on the top is that bar graph comparing schools.
They might not be able to see the badges underneath.
Yeah, and some of the, I'm not sure what shows up if you're outside of District 83. Some of this might be blocked for anyone not in D83, but you can kind of see on your screen, we've got a table here listing our top badge winners, and they're sorted by number of badges that that the person has received. So as you can see, we've got some badge crazy folks here at D83, which is awesome. So a little bit about how we determine which badges to use.
So when we started, we talked a little bit about, we started with those 6 badges. We wanted to see the system to make sure teachers got it. And then we started thinking of what other badges do we want teachers to be able to get? And we wanted it differentiated. We definitely wanted to push those apps and those subscriptions that we pay for. We already give a lot of training on that, but sometimes, or a lot of times, it's not mandatory for them. So we wanted to make sure we were pushing those. But then we had other concepts like coding or connecting, like global connections, that were more skill or strategy based. So we wanted to make sure that those weren't tool specific. And then we also have building targeted ones. So our district is composed of 3 elementary schools, a middle, a special ed co-op, and an early childhood center. So something that our early childhood center is going to be very different from what our middle school is. So depending on the staff and the needs there, we might be making badges that are specific to the building and to the needs of that staff. Just a little background, how we develop these badges. We meet as a team bi-weekly, and we throw out ideas for badges. We each take a badge every month, and we work on it individually, and then we edit each other's pages. And so we're not always working as a group, but we definitely have a criteria that we follow when we're making new badges.
Yeah, we want to make it rigorous. We want to make sure it's something that everybody can attain, but also that there's, we're not doing participation trophies. We do want people to work for these and to be able to reflect on what they've done, and we want to make it fair for everybody to have access as well. So a little bit about the how now, getting into the details of how. So we create the badges in Google Drawings. We create one template in Drawings. We make sure that it's the right size. We make sure we test out printing it so that it comes out, they all come out and printed in the size we want. We test it digitally. Is it going to show up on a screen the way we want? And once we've got that template down, we just make a copy of that template every time we create a new badge. So we've got one folder that has all of our badge drawings in Google Drawings, and then we download a PNG file using download, and we choose PNG, and because we have the transparent background, it has to be a PNG file, and then we upload it back into a separate folder called badge PNGs. There's a reason for that. There's a method to the madness. One of the reasons is when that email goes out and it's a link with the badge's URL, and then that causes the badge to show up as a picture in the as an email attachment that's easy to download. A little bit about where that actually ends up going. So again, we created in Drawings, downloaded as a PNG, and that's super important because that badge has to go several places. Like I mentioned, it gets uploaded back to Drive. It also ends up going into the Google site. It goes onto that badge request form so that people can select it. And then it goes onto, in Google Sheets, we have a database basically of all of the badges and their names listed in one sheet. So we try to get it really right, and we go through this approval process together so that we know that it's good to go. So that, because once you make it, we kind of want it to stay the same. Otherwise, you have to update it several different places. So a little bit about the workflow. So I won't go into detail on this page. This is like more of a step-by-step one-pager of like, I want to go back later and see the process all in one place. This will give you every step that happens and then some links to where you can download a copy and do this yourself if you're interested. So this is not really like user-friendly to talk about, but to learn on your own quietly later. It's there for you. Instead, I'll kind of walk you through each step one at a time. So a teacher wants to do the badge request. They go on the form, they select teacher. And one thing we use is an add-on called Form Mule. So Form Mule, well, let me back up. If you're not familiar with add-ons, any Google app has add-ons. They're basically a way to supercharge that app. It's kind of like a little mini app that runs along with it. It's basically a script that somebody out there wrote and created and turned into an easy download. You can find them, for example, in Google Sheets. You can find them in Docs, Slides, but you just go to add-ons, and then you can do get add-ons and search for them right there. As you can see, I'm a little add-on crazy. I have a problem. This is a cry for help. I have a lot of them in there, but they're super useful. But this one is Form Mule. And Form Mule, a lot of these, what's great about them is that they have a wizard that walks you through every step. Form Mule essentially is kind of like an old, if you remember mail merges from like Microsoft Word, it kind of works like that. And so what ends up happening is it grabs my submission. As you probably know, when you when you submit a Google form, it ends up creating a entry into a Google Sheet. Well, this is where all our badge requests come in. So this is actually, as you can see, linked to the form. And so what happens is when that's submitted, Form Mule is set up to format a template that I've already typed up and send out an email. In that template, I can tell it, hey, I want you to include a link here and a link here and a link here. And it pulls all that information straight from this submission that they made in the Google form. Now there is a little bit of magic going on here. As you can see, there are some formulas involved. I won't get deep into it, but it's a formula that once they submit it, it pulls the badge from our master list. So this is our master list. It really, all that's important here is the A, B, and C. Don't worry about all this. I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, as long as we have a list of the names, the image itself, which you can do an insert image on the PNG to put it in that cell, and then a link to it in Drive, this database does the rest. And again, the download that's on that previous page has an example of this, so the formulas are already there and done for you.
So what Eric did is he started with the form that was, or the spreadsheet that was created from the form submission, and then we built off of that. So we just keep adding tabs to build our database.
Exactly. Okay, and so then it kicks out that email with all those nice links in it. And again, if you're starting to say, you know what, this is getting a little more complicated than I need, you don't necessarily have to do all of this. You can just have it send you an email saying, hey, guess what? Someone submitted a badge request, and stop there. I did this because I'm kind of automation crazy. Like I wanted it to be one click. So I put a ton of work into the formulas and to the template that's here in Form Mule. And then now every time I get an email, it's just click, 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 click. And to me, that was a worthwhile investment of my time. So yeah, so the next step, obviously I explained what each of those parts of the email is. So again, that's automated. So I just have to click on everything once it comes in. Then I go in, as you saw, and I click TLC. I go to section based on answer within that question on the Google form, and that sends me to a different section.
Antonio Rojas, please report to the office.
I hope they find him. Okay, so that's this is basically all in one form. It's just that they go to the teacher section if they pick teacher. They go to the coach section if they pick TLC. And again, there's that high-tech security going on with the password there. When I clicked approve, it again ran Form Mule. And Form Mule basically can store a bunch of email templates, and it'll say, hey, which one do I send when? And I programmed it just by clicking through their wizard to say, if approved says yes, send this email to whatever email address they typed in. So it may look like it's pretty complex, but Form Mule walks you through every step. You just tell it that this is the form entry that I wanted to look at. And when it says yes, this email gets popped out with all the links from their form submission ready for them. So it looks like I spent a lot of time typing this to the teacher, but they're just getting a form, an automated form email.
Antonio Rojas, please report to the office.
If any of you know Antonio, tell him he's got to get to the office like ASAP. Buses are leaving. We have a link there. Again, it's a Google Drawing file that we created that just step-by-step show them how to insert their badge into their signature file. And again, because it's a link, it kind of shows up here really easy for them to pop out and also download a copy if they want. So a couple of sheets that we have set up, like I showed you, there's the master list here. And really these three are the ones that you really need. So after you upload your PNG file, you just go ahead and grab the link from Google Drive and put it in there. There's the badge request. Again, you have that download from the page there, and you'll get this document shared with you. But it just has all their form submission as well as a bunch of stuff that Formule throws in there. Formule grabs that edit URL. You might be wondering, how did you edit the same form they submitted? Formule grabs that edit URL for you. Huge, important part of this. And so that ends up getting emailed to me so that now I can open their same form submission. Really useful for not having to go back and start all over, right? So there's that, and then we have a couple of other sheets that are there just to collect data on how many badges each teacher or each school has earned. The formulas you need are all in there, so feel free to use them. But it kicks out this nice leaderboard for us, which again is just a Google Sheet that I formatted to look nice on a web page. And then any of these charts that I've created, I can just go to File, Publish to the Web. And once you publish to the web, you can tell it which sheet you want to publish. I think in Google Sites, I actually use the embed code.
Yes.
And then I tell it which sheet I want to publish. Do I want people to have to sign in with D83? And then it gives me, once I click publish, it gives me a nice embed code. Which one am I clicking here? This is school leaderboard, right? There we go. So it'll give me this embed code, and I just copy that and I go into Google Sites, and there's a place where you can choose an embed tool and you just paste it right in. So I do that one time, and then it shows up nice and easy right here. And that's basically just two separate embedded Google Sheets, and they're auto updated. So once I hit approve, obviously the database here gets immediately updated, but the Google site does not get updated for up to 5 to 10 minutes. So there's a little bit of a lag, but I don't think anybody really has noticed that. We put a little bit of conditional formatting so that anything that we had not yet clicked and responded to shows up as red. That way we know if we've got some outstanding submissions that we just haven't gotten to. If I've missed the email or if I've accidentally deleted the email, I can just go back in to my database and I can find that edit URL and just open it back up, and I can submit that one now. And then obviously I've showed you those sheets already. Those are all just separate sheets within that same Google Sheets file, and there's how you get the embed codes.
All right, so celebration. So how did we make this grow? So we made it competitive. We basically, when we rolled this out, we did our soft rollout, we got some people badges, and then we showed it at a faculty meeting and said, hey, look, middle school is beating us, and we made it a competition. So different schools have different levels of competition. Some schools have competitions amongst grade levels or amongst teachers, but we definitely try to do the competitions among the staff. And so part of it is having that staff leaderboard. So that's on our page. We also celebrated at faculty meetings. So all of us put together some sort of shout out page, and we recognize staff members at our faculty meetings. We have faculty meetings once a month. But some of us, I think, also just send it out in an email, just like, hey, check out who got their badge. And we recognize them that way. So that, as Eric showed you, another way is that they can put it in their email signature. And so some of our teachers actually have a lot. So this is an example of 2, but as you saw on our leaderboard, we have teachers that have 15 badges, and they're just really long. So every time that they email parents or administrators or their teachers or people outside the district, they have all of their badges to show off. We also like physical badges. So we print and laminate badges, and we actually have them. Eric's showing them. He has a folder of all his badges printed. But we put them out on teachers' doors. So all of our teachers have room numbers, and we actually go in every time they earn a badge, we stick them. And other teachers walking down the hallway, parents, visitors, students are like, oh my God, what's that? I was just in a classroom, and one of our top badge recipients, all of the kids went out to the door and were like cheering on this teacher because she got another badge. And it's just really, really fun for the teachers to show that they're learners too, and you know, they're putting their swag out there. This was another way we made it competitive. We like to tweet it out. So this is kind of how we got the ball rolling. Is these are Jason and Terrence are also coaches in our district, and we all just started tweeting out like what place we're in, check out all these badges that we have, and Eric's trying to make the hashtag BadgeIT happen. So
trying to own it, trying to take it over. And we also, you know, as you can imagine, some of our more active badging teachers are also on Twitter. As you can see, a lot of tweeter badges. So they get competitive, we'll tag them and just let them know. Like Mr. Sesniak is our assistant principal, and he tagged another principal and was like, hey, I got more badges than you. Step your game up.
Or like, where are you at? You know, shout out another building. And...
Yep. So if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, like I got a little crazy, you know, I got all kinds of free time, of course. And so there's this awesome site called Glide Apps that lets you build mobile apps. As long as you use a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, you can turn it into a mobile app. This didn't exist when we first started. It's just by pure fortune that we had everything housed in a Google Sheet. And so if you wanted to click that link or just scan that QR code with a mobile device, you can actually install our app. It asks for your email address. The reason is that helps me track like who's actually downloaded it, but also the teachers here put in their email address, and it shows them the badges they've specifically earned. So that badge app is kind of like a companion to the site itself, and that it'll show them all the badges. They can click in and see what they need to do to earn the badge. They can see the leaderboard from there, but then they can also see the quote unquote My Badges section where they can see just what they've earned. We just kind of launched it. It's really about trying to meet teachers where they are. You know, obviously a website is easily accessible, but people are on their phones even more than they are just on a browser. So if we have an app, they're sitting at home thinking about badges, which we think they always should be. You know, they can be like, all right, how do I get this badge? Let me see. Let's do that this week. And it's easily accessible to them. So speaking of that, so that's just one way that we get our staff on board, meeting them where they're at. Our suggestions are start small. Like what you're seeing now has grown over the course of an entire year. And again, it took like a year prior to that of us like just planning and thinking this through. And we also have a team of 5 tech coaches who we can kind of distribute the work now a little bit. And we've got 5 heads in the room thinking this through. So start small. We started with 6 to 8 badges where we're like, I know a few teachers I've worked with that have totally nailed this, earned this, they're leaders. Let's just get those badges out to them early. Let's let them know what we're doing. Let's get it on their board. Let's get it up in a faculty meeting so people see it. And it feels like, oh, this has been going on. Like, how long has this been going on that people already have badges? Why don't I know? So it's kind of that like marketing portion of it, of building interest and brand awareness. And that's what we mean by seeding the system. You know, things tend to take off when people tend to, you know, want to do something when they realize other people are already doing it.
Find your people that have a lot of social equity and plant the seed in them.
Absolutely.
They'll make it grow.
Obviously, we've gotten competitive with it. And then celebrating success, we've shown you ways that we've demonstrated for teachers, hey, you know, this is something that we're proud of. We want to shout these people out. Part of why we put the Danielson domains on each page. So if you see any one of these that we click, Dana mentioned that we have a little Danielson wheel. We highlight what we think are the Danielson components it's hitting. Is that so now it's kind of a reward for teachers who are engaging with this to be able to say, you know, hey, I'm developing myself professionally. And really, these are things that teachers were doing anyway, but does that always get captured in their evaluation? Do they always remember? Are they able to, you know, put into words exactly what they did and how they impacted students? Well, now it's all there for them. And they've even got a reflection they've already written. So when they go to do their evaluation, hopefully that's just another tool in their tool belt and something that they can easily access and something tangible to show off how far they've come. And then we also encourage you to stay rigorous. It's easy. I know we talked about seeding the system, and it's easy to say, let's just give out some badges quickly, but you don't want to damage the integrity of everything. And then you also want to be equitable to everyone, where you don't want the first couple people who get a badge to have it super easy and then it gets impossible after that. You want to stay rigorous and maintain the integrity. And we do have to have conversations with teachers sometimes. Like, you know, I know you've learned this, but I want you to take a look at the badge requirements on the page. We're just trying to make sure it's fair to everybody. We need you to write a little bit more for your reflection. Tell me a little bit more about how this impacted students. And we just have those conversations with teachers, and most of the time they get it and they understand. And, you know, they have the same expectations of their students, of course. So it's a conversation we have to have sometimes, but they respect that. I think people respect it more when you stick to your guns on that kind of thing, and you're equitable with everybody, and then it maintains the system being equally challenging for everybody. And then most importantly, always keep your why at the center.
So another thing, and we have these conversations a lot as coaches, is the requirements for the badges. And what do teachers have to do in order to earn a badge? How many times do they have to use Padlet? And what ways do they have to use it? And so we have had a lot of conversations on this. And our idea is that if they're earning a micro-credential, they are now a leader in that building for that tool. They have a badge on their door and in their email signature that says, hey, you want to learn more about this? Come see me. And so they're able to then teach other people in the building. And so that's really what they're celebrating and showing off. So if we give them our participation trophy and then someone goes to them and they go, oh, well, I only did it once. We really didn't want that. We wanted to make sure that they were becoming their own, another leader in the building for technology.
Yeah, I think the last thing we'd ever want is somebody to have like a book creator badge, and then their teammates like, oh, show me how to use book creator, and they're like, I don't know, Dana did it all. So, you know, that doesn't send the right message. So definitely we wanted that transfer of ownership.
So we have a lot of goals. We are constantly talking about this. We talk about this every other week. We want to continue our competition. So here's just some goals that we have. Like, we want to have more competition and celebrations. Like, are we going to have the top 5 winners or 10 winners? What are they going to get? Again, we don't have a budget. We're just, you know, if we roll the world, what would we do? We also want to have button swag. We're thinking about creating real buttons. But again, we didn't do this at the beginning because we didn't know if it was going to take off. Now that we've seen it grow, now we're just going to try to take it to the next step. Because we try to have these conversations about this before, and we can go down the rabbit hole. But we just didn't know if it was going to be successful or not. So we're finally at that point.
And that was it. That was a lot, I know, in a short amount of time. But hopefully there's enough there where you're able to get some ideas and take as much as you like out of that. We have a reflection form. It would be awesome if you can fill that out. I'm going to drop it in the chat in just a second, but that'll help us know how we did. And then if you have any other questions, we'll hang out for a little while, or you can always post them right there in the form.
Share our presentation.
All right, thanks. I'm sorry, I was just trying to go through and make sure I gave everybody the ability to unmute. Feel free to ask questions in the chat or to unmute yourself and ask any questions you may have. We'll go ahead and pause now so you can do so.
Elevator music.
We can go back over anything if you have anything specific, like our crash course and how we did it.
One thing I will ask while we're waiting here is, would you be willing to share a link to the slides with us also?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to put that in the email that goes out with the recording. I'll put the link to both the slide deck as well as the feedback to make sure that everybody has access to that. So, and then also your contact information so they can reach out as well. So I'll go ahead and pause now and again, open it up for if anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, this is Amber, and I just wanted to say thank you. This was very informative. It seems like you put a lot of time and effort into it. Having 5 people, I don't know how many buildings you have each, but I have 3 buildings of my own with over 1,000 kids in them each. And there's only 3 of us in the entire district, and our district has 16,000 kids. So it's crazy that I think about doing this, and I want to be able to do it, but I feel like it's just 3. There's just 3 of us.
Yeah, it's tricky. We recently went to one per building, so we are fortunate there. The first modifications that come to mind is, people might request them and might be granted them, but you might not physically get them a badge until maybe you're all together at a faculty meeting or something where you just, instead of being able to run to each classroom like we're able to, maybe dropping it in the mail, dropping it in their mailbox for them, or maybe just keeping everything 100% digital. It definitely was a lot of like upfront work. I think every team like needs a nerd, and I think I'm that nerd that like spent some mornings with my kids watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm like going crazy on the spreadsheet getting it together. So upfront definitely it was a lot. But I think our whole goal was, we look at our calendar. We tried to just set a meeting with all four of us, and it's like in the next 2 weeks, there's like one little block where we're all available. So even with one per building, we're super busy. So putting that time up front into making the system easy to manage and starting small and not expecting like to do too much too fast has made it manageable for us now to where it's just one part of our day. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Do you guys do like more instructional strategies in there too? So I know that you had a lot of technology items on there, but do you do like workshop model or instructional strategies as well? Does that make sense? I see you moving around.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that. We kind of started with the app-based ones, right? And those were just easier to do and easier for people to earn. But ultimately our goal would be, because technology and innovation should just be a part of what we're doing anyway, right? So we're moving kind of towards a little bit more of the instructional ones. So Dana, do you want to mention a couple of these?
So like I said, so we have our class connector one, which is just globally connecting, which isn't tool specific. It's part of the 4 C's. We wanted to have teachers doing global projects or Skyping with an expert, so we do have more. We have started ones that are not app specific. We wanted to start with the apps because we thought it was easy to manage at first, but now that we've seen it kind of taking off, it was more concrete for them. We also have one called Big Thinker. We use thinking maps in our district, which is a way that students use graphic organizers to organize their thinking and their learning. And it's a big initiative in our district, so we've recently put that one in there. We've also had talks with our literacy coaches to put in possibly some strategies for maybe reading or anything like that. We haven't gotten there yet. Being tech coaches, we wanted to start with instructional tech. A new one that we have is our reflection one, and that's more for teachers to reflect on their own. So they actually, we have a form for them to determine what they want to self-reflect on. They can meet with us to kind of determine that. They record a video, and then they actually watch their video and reflect on it. So we've set up something like that as well.
An important portion to mention is that like some of these didn't really fall under our domain in the district. Like Thinking Maps is under the curriculum and instruction director in that department. So that was one where we had to go to them and say, hey, this is something we're doing. Are you okay with us partnering? What should the requirements look like to make sure it's rigorous to your needs? So we didn't want to just kind of be cowboys out there, like making a badge for things that weren't really under our jurisdiction.
Right, I understand that totally. Okay, I think those are really all of my questions that I had. Thanks, this has been wonderful. You guys did a great job.
Thank you, Amber.
And if you guys can always tweet at us or email us, and hopefully.
Oh, I'm sure. When I present this and show this to my team, I think when we get started, we'll definitely be reaching out and asking some questions, especially if I can't get a formula to work.
For sure.
Ask Eric.
For sure.
That's his ballgame right there.
We're happy to help, and you'll get the email with the presentation and all the links and everything, so you'll have a good base to start with.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amber. Any other questions out there? Okay. I will go ahead and make sure that you get all the resources in the follow-up email coming out tomorrow. And I just want to take the time to say thanks, Eric, Dana. Thank you both for this. This was great, a really great deep dive into how you set this all up. And just by looking at the comments in chat and hearing the questions, it sounds to me like there's going to be a lot of people taking this back to their schools and saying, we want to do this. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and sharing what you guys have been doing.
All right. Thank you for the
Thank you so
opportunity.
much.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon.